Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Network Africa, coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's turn our attention to Uganda, where it's been a day since main opposition leader Kizza Besigye was released on bail for treason charges, having been detained 2 months ago after the country's presidential election. Well, it does seem the government had hoped to keep him quiet, but there is no stopping Besigye, who recently addressed a press briefing during which he said he had absolutely no intention of compromising any rights as a full citizen of his country. He said, quote, "I am free, independent citizen of this country with full rights. Before I left prison, I pointed out that I will continue to be defiant," unquote. When Besigye was released, a judge had ordered him to live in peace and stay away from trouble and not to engage in any protests. But Besigye says government wants to create the impression that defiance is illegal. There is nothing illegal about defiance, he says. Besigye was welcomed by hundreds of his supporters on release from jail, while the police heavily deployed along the Kampala-Entebbe highway to control the jubilant crowd. Zimbabweans have been taking a stand against the government of President Robert Mugabe with a nationwide strike action for some days now. Well, there's no telling how long they will be able to keep this up. Lots of people seem tired of staying at home already, but there are reports of people coming out and on their way to work. Businesses are open, including banks, same for public schools, which are conducting mid-year examinations, while nurses and doctors are at state-run hospitals. In the meantime, Zimbabwean pastor Ivan Mawarire was in court today to answer charges of inciting the public to protest. There are other charges against Pastor Mawarire, significant of them being subverting the constitutionally elected government through civil unrest. That was made in court today. His lawyers said they were not aware of the charges, which carries a 20-year prison term. The lawyers are asking the court not to entertain the new charge. Let's move to South Sudan now, where there is relative peace in that country and in the capital, Juba. But that's not enough to calm foreigners living in that country who fear there could be a new wave of attacks and are seizing the opportunity to leave while they can. 5 countries at least have begun evacuations. They include Uganda, the United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, and India. The US and Kenya have also announced they intend to airlift their citizens out of the country. The Italian Foreign Ministry says one of its military planes has landed in the capital, Juba, to evacuate 30 of its citizens who have decided to leave. The Nigerian government, however, is not planning to evacuate its citizens, at least not yet, as there is already a ceasefire in place, one they hope will last. In the meantime, South Sudan's Vice President Riek Machar has decided to leave the capital, Juba, along with his troops. One of his spokespersons says they are trying to avoid more confrontation. Angola's government is putting measures in place to curb trade in bushmeat as part of efforts to protect its wildlife and stop poaching. Poaching was rampant during Angola's brutal 27-year civil war, and local wildlife was the only source of meat for many people. But nearly 13 years later, the practice persists.
At a market on the outskirts of Menungwe, near the Okavango National Park in southern Angola, women traders are selling their day stock bushmeat. Bushmeat is popular here and is easily accessible, but now the Angolan government is taking steps to ban the hunting of wildlife, which means customers like Linda Masengo may have to go without their much-loved delicacy.
No, bushmeat should not be banned. because if you compare chicken with this kind of meat, this is better, so they should not ban it.
Today, it is quite difficult to find employment. This is our only means of making a living. We have no jobs. It's useless to turn to crime, and our children cannot starve. We buy metal traps and hide them in the bush. A gazelle may fall into it, and that's good for us. We have no jobs. How can I survive? There is nothing.
According to the United Nations, illegal logging, mining, poaching and other environmentally destructive trade earned criminal gangs up to $258 billion last year. Angola is home to Africa's largest bushmeat and ivory market. The southern African country is now a transit point for illegal ivory.
We want to take advantage of the wildlife to diversify our economy and for us to work together to mitigate poverty reduction and also to increase employment, to diversify our economy and production and to participate in the progress of future generations.
While Angola has rebuilt an impressive infrastructure and is recovering from the nearly three-decade war, the country remains mired in poverty. Unemployment is rife, making the battle against poaching much more difficult.
And here in Nigeria, in Borno State Northeast, the National Emergency Management Agency has adjusted its food supply pattern to meet the nutritional needs of the internally displaced persons. Food items supplied to the state government now contain a variety of grains and supplements for the children. The NEMA Zonal Coordinator, Mr. Mohammed Kana, explained that the items would be released to the State Emergency Agency in batches.
The Borno state government has been battling with rising cases of malnutrition in children and adults in satellite makeshift camps. Over 1,000 people have already been evacuated from Bama Local Council to the capital city in Maiduguri for proper care. The latest medical supply is coming from the National Emergency Management Agency to camps around the capital city, including cartons of nutrition supplements for children. The state government says it is set to complement NEMA's efforts by providing other food items as agreed in the Memorandum of Understanding between them.
The federal government is giving us food items while we are complementing the effort of the condiments. Apart from the condiments, we are also providing the IDPs with some of the nutritional values for the small children, and at the same time the malnutrited or nutritious.
Meanwhile, NEMA will continue to evaluate and monitor the usage of items given in camps.
We are going to give them in two weeks, and also evaluation processes will take place inside the camp. What we give, we must get the return of what we already give out to see the return of it from the camp.
There are a lot of issues and challenges, particularly this rainy season across the satellite camps of Dikwa, Ngala and other areas. But with the development, I'm sure we will receive a lot of stability within the camps in Maiduguri.
Apart from the food challenge, internally displaced persons are dealing with issues ranging from accommodation, especially with the setting in of the rainy season.
Anytime it rains, we lack where to stay. Some of us go out to sleep on the tarred road because of flooding in our camp. We are so many that the little help we get doesn't go round. Each day, they cook at least 500 bags of rice, but the children still have to go out and beg for alms because the food is not enough. We really need help.
NEMA officials also want the government to make proactive plans to receive more IDPs as the Nigerian military continues to liberate more towns.
Let's take a break on Network Africa. When we come back, the UN is predicting the number of people that could be affected by the El Nino weather pattern. We have details in just a moment. Do stay with us. Also, we'll be talking about the Malawi youth